Hi there, I'm Randy Patterson. This is another in a series of posts on cognitive distortions. These are ways that human beings routinely misperceive the world around us. We're looking here at the screen between external reality and the world we perceive, and how reality changes on the way in. This time, labeling. I still remember the first class of my first course in psychopathology, which was a very long time ago. Park Davidson, the prof, talked about the different kinds of explanation or understanding that can be applied to a problem or behavior. An etiological approach, for example, looks at where the problem comes from, what produced it. A functional approach looks at the goal of the behavior. For example, the function of some classroom misbehavior might be to get attention. There were several others. At the end of the list, Davidson had labeling. This means explaining a problem by giving it a name. So a person exhibits a certain set of symptoms, and we group those symptoms together, and we call it obsessive compulsive disorder. And then if someone asks, why is he doing that? We can say, well, he has obsessive compulsive disorder. And if they say, oh, and how do we know that he has obsessive compulsive disorder? We can say, because he's doing that. The point is that the label doesn't actually explain anything. It sounds like an explanation, but it isn't. What a label does is it takes something that's very immediate and often changeable, like a behavior or an event, and it solidifies it. It turns it into a thing. It's not low mood, it's depression. It's not a difficult event, it's trauma. The label itself doesn't actually give us anything, but it makes the problem seem more stable and solid. In the case of some behavior, it takes it from something a person is doing and makes it sound like something that person is. It's a type of person. And when you are something, it's hard to change it. If you do something selfish, that sounds like something you can change next time. But if we turn it into a thing by calling you a narcissist, that sounds like something that isn't going to change. It's stable and ongoing. It's something about them. It's their nature. So what's labeling when it comes to cognitive distortions? It's the process of taking a transitory event and turning it into a non-transitory, stable characteristic, usually of a person. Sometimes you, sometimes someone else, sometimes an institution or a whole group or race of people. So let's say you start a new job and you realize that you have misfiled a piece of paper. What can you do about that? Well, you can go find it and file it properly. What if you misfile that piece of paper and then you redefine the problem? It's not that you misfiled something. It's that you are an idiot. That's the label, idiot. So now the problem is you. What can you do about that? That's a little trickier, isn't it? How do you go from being an idiot to not an idiot? Personally, I'm not sure, but it sounds like a bigger job than just refiling a piece of paper. As a matter of fact, it sounds kind of futile, and that's the point. Labeling takes a changeable problem and makes it unchangeable, almost locking it in place. When people are putting together a play for the stage, they try out a bunch of stuff and see what works. Some jokes just never get a laugh, so those jokes get cut. The fight scene at the front of the stage looks fake, so they move it further back. A whole scene just doesn't work, so it gets cut or rewritten. But at some point, you need to say, right, we've done it. We've finished the changes. This is the show. Time for opening night. And then if the thing runs for 3 months, it's pretty much the same show at the end that it was at the start. And this process of ending the changes has a couple of names, but usually they say the show is frozen. This is it. Don't change it. Labeling is like freezing a show. It takes a workable situation and it freezes it in place. If I decide that the problem is you are a narcissist or a psychopath or an idiot or a loser, there's almost nothing to be done. I might as well just give up because nothing I do is going to change your core nature. I cannot make you smarter. I cannot change your personality. You are what you are. And the same thing applies to yourself. If you decide that the reason you made that mistake at work is simply that you're untrainably stupid, you might as well quit, because there are no vitamins that are going to raise your IQ by 30 points. If you decide you are a loser, there's no point trying to win, because winning isn't what losers do. If you are unathletic, then don't try to learn any sports, because another word for sports is athletics. In therapy, we often see people who have decided on their true nature, and they've given themselves one of these restrictive labels. And the label cuts them off from whole swaths of human experience. No, I'm not social. No, I don't do sports. No, I can't cook. And to a great extent, the label has become the problem. If we can get them to drop the label or even relax it a bit, they can begin exploring that forbidden territory. And they can begin discovering things about themselves. Okay, so maybe I'm not going to be an Olympic gymnast, but can I row? Yes. Can I bowl? Yeah. Can I run and not trip over my own feet? Yeah. What was stopping you? The label. One of my areas of interest is the ways that mental health services and mental health terminology can have unintended negative effects. I believe that the widespread increase in public awareness about mental health problems is very much a mixed bag. There are some real benefits, but there are some downsides too. One of those downsides is that people do what psychology students have been doing since time immemorial. They read about different kinds of symptoms online, and then they diagnose themselves. They give themselves labels. I am a social phobic. I am a depressive. I am ADHD. I am Asperger's. And sometimes this wouldn't be so bad, but the label gets taken as something real, something that cannot change. And so it becomes guidance for the person's life. I'm socially phobic, so I don't do social events. And what happens? Well, the social anxiety gets worse. I am acrophobic, so I have to stay away from high places. And the more we avoid our fears, the more intense they get. I have Asperger's, so there's no point in me trying to learn better social skills. And things get worse, not better. I am a depressive, so I have to stay at home, which is exactly what to do if you want the depression to get worse. I have a trauma history, so I need trigger warnings so I can avoid my triggers, which is exactly how to make post-traumatic symptoms worse. In effect, a person's diagnosis, whether it's real or self-imposed, can become a part of their identity. This is not something that happened to me, it's something I am. It is my nature. And for me to be not that, I will have to be something else, someone else. I will have to become a different person. The label is not a signpost to change or to growth. It's a barrier to it. So what do you do? Well, first, I think it's best to remain in the mindful present. I misfiled the piece of paper. Go find the paper. Let's not try to turn this into a permanent state of affairs. Go find the paper. Second, be very cautious about adopting these labels, either for yourself or for other people, because they tend not to be ways of solving problems. They're ways of making problems unsolvable. Third, when a label is already in place, question it. So that person's a butthead. Okay. What is it that makes you think that? Well, they're always late. Okay, fine. Is there something we can do about that? We can't turn a butthead into a non-butthead, but we can work with lateness. Listen, I'll wait outside the movie theater till 7, then I'll go in. If you find me, great. And as always, we can use a simple phrase as a reminder when the distorting bias of labeling comes into play. In this case, focus on the event, not on the person. Pay attention to what is happening, rather than turning this into an imaginary characteristic of this person. What is the event? They're late. Fine, deal with that. The moment you turn it into their character, you lose the ability to solve the problem. My books, including the Assertiveness Workbook, How to Be Miserable, and How to Be Miserable in Your 20s, are all available from bookstores and online booksellers. There's information about each of them at randypatterson.com, and my online courses can be found at psychologysalon.teachable.com. Thanks for watching.